Okay, so it's been a long time since I shot a video, but we're doing another video today, and this is about how to deepen your meditation life. And this is geared towards the people that are already coming. Of course, it's for everybody, even the people that aren't coming, who've only been, participating in the center through video. But this, I want you guys that are coming every day, every Thursday, and are really, members at the center. I want you to hear this. And the reason why I'm making the video is because I really thought I had made this very clear to people. But someone I spoke to yesterday who's been coming for a long time and who I really respect, it hadn't sunk in the way it needed to. And she said maybe I better make a video and just kind of put this out there, and hopefully it lands and people hear it in a new way. And so we're talking about depth of meditation and how important it is that our meditation gets deeper over time. And as with all things to do with Christ, and as with all things to do with salvation, it is first and foremost a work of grace. And your meditation is going to deepen over time because Christ dwells in your life. And that is the first thing we must say, is that it's going to happen, and it is happening now. And within that happening, we know that there are cycles that go up and down. We know you can go for months where you're going really deep and then have a few months where you can't get as deep. And we think that is natural and not a problem at all. It's normal in the process of you being saved and drawn towards God. And we also know that certain stages that you're in your life, in your spirituality, you're going to respond differently and have different experiences with meditation during those stages. If you're in the very first stage of spirituality, you're likely to often have times that are very easy while you're meditating, but you're also likely to have times where it's very difficult to quiet your mind and to get focused and to get detached from the world. And we know that if you move into the night, that you will respond differently there also. And similar but different. In some parts of the night, you may find it very difficult to get deep because you kind of don't want to, because the purification that you're experiencing is uncomfortable, and you may be rebelling against that. There's not a lot you can do about that until you're ready to not rebel, which, being saved from that rebellion, is a work of grace and a work of salvation that happens over time because Christ is dwelling in you and drawing you to that place. But there would also be parts of the night where you're experiencing that humility that begins to set in, and that the warmth and safety and comfort that comes from surrender and from getting small and from giving up the fight against deep purification, and so that you might also have periods during the night that are quite comfortable and warm and inviting to get into prayer, where you could dwell within your suffering as a means of getting into deeper meditation. And, I've discussed this in other videos, but it's worth mentioning that if you have issues arising, you might feel discomfort in your chest, aching, pain, pride, fear in your belly. Sometimes when those kind of issues are very loud, the very worst thing you could do is try to get beyond that. It's so loud that why would you try to ignore it as a technique to go deeper? That seems like a losing battle sometimes, doesn't it? So sometimes the best thing to do in that case would be to place your attention on the fear, place your attention on the sorrow, place your attention on the remorse, place your attention on the guilt. And since it is so loud anyway, why not use that as your focus of attention while your intent is still to be drawn closer to God? So, if your intent is to draw closer to God and come under God's will, In a normal meditation, your focus is your sacred word or a prayer that you're saying, right? That's your focus of attention. You focus your attention on a prayer or a sacred word, but the intent is deeper than just that prayer, and the intent is deeper than just that word. Well, in this case, same intent, but your focus of attention can be on the fear or on the guilt. And since it's so loud, it's quite easy not to ignore it, and it's easy to find your attention fully dwelling on it, and that means the world leaves you. You leave the world behind, and you and God can dwell in that guilt until you enter a deep state of meditation. That's great. That's a great way to do it. So just that's a recap of some things that have been discussed. But what I wanted to say today, and I don't know if I could say it well, it's come up in conversation. It's been confirmed in such a way that I was sure I better make a video. And so I thought, and then I just got time to sit down and do it, and I want to do it now. Maybe I'll make a second part if I forget to say some things that I think are important. But if you are struggling to quiet your mind in your morning meditation, if you wake up and feel rested and have a lot of energy for the day ahead of you, that can be a very difficult time to get into a deep state of meditation. And if you're in a stage where you get caught up in worldly thoughts, where the thought of your day ahead swims in your mind, and you know you're going to work, let's say right after this meditation period, there's troubles at work or stress at work, it's possible to get up and begin to enter your prayer life and have it mostly overcome by worries and concerns about the day ahead, or problems you're having in your life, or just a general excitement or energy or slight anxiety about the day ahead, and that can make it hard for you to feel isolated and alone and in a deep sort of state of communion with God. So grace will fix that over the years. You'll slowly grow out of that over time. But what are some methods, what are some practices that we could draw from Christianity that might make this so much easier? And the best one is to not get enough sleep. So the best way I know to mitigate the monkey mind, the mind that you're caught up in your day and the anxieties of the day, is to get up way before you're really before you've had enough sleep. Like maybe at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Or depend. Everyone gets up at a different time. Maybe it's 5:30. But my experience when I was in that stage of prayer is that if I woke up fully rested, if I naturally awoke fully rested, it was very, very difficult for me to get deep into prayer after that. And what I discovered is that if I got up 3 hours before I actually had to be awake, 3 hours before I was actually going to get up and start my day, then there's this buffer. There's this great sense of separation between the world and the concerns of the world. There's a sense of isolation. It's dark outside. It's not time to start the day. No one is stirring in the home. There aren't cars going by. The world is asleep. The whole country is asleep at that time. And so if you got up at 3 a.m., brushed your teeth with the lights on, and got awake, maybe had a glass of water, walked down to the kitchen and got a drink of water and brushed your teeth, and then came back and sat in your meditation chair, wherever it is that you meditate. If you do that, you're going to find that you are so much less concerned and prone to entertaining the anxieties of the day ahead, or the excitement of the day ahead, or the worries of the day ahead. because there's a buffer there. You actually know that you're going to go back to sleep after you meditate. So you know that you now get to meditate and then go back to sleep for a couple of hours before you have to get up and face the day. And that creates a very powerful psychological buffer between you and worrying, active, busy mind that you can't quiet down. And, this is something I discovered in the night because I had, 10 years prior of meditation where it was really easy and quite deep. And then I hit the night and I kind of couldn't meditate anymore. You guys know the story where it seemed like someone put a cap on my head and I was unable to meditate after that day. It was gone. It was as if I had forgotten how to meditate completely and had to start over. And I didn't understand it yet. Obviously, no one explains anything. They just come and do it, and then you're stuck with it. And so, I was quite confused, very disoriented, and used to very deep meditation. And I found myself completely unable to get deep at all. And it occurred to me, relatively soon in that process that I needed to be getting up really early and doing it, and then going back to sleep. It dropped into my mind. I need to be up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and meditate. That's when I could go deeper. And sure enough, I found that if I was just a little bit tired still, awake, but not fully awake, and if I had a huge buffer between when I was up and my day, if I knew that I was going to be able to go back to sleep, I found that meditation was much, much easier to get into when I was getting into deeper places. And so that 3-hour period started looking like, up, brush my teeth, drink a little bit of water, come sit back down, a subtle 3 or 4 minute of just deepening, and then me being able to enter a quality meditative state. And then, whoever knows how long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, however long of a meditation period that then I would either pop out and just lay down and go to sleep, or I would just kind of fall asleep while meditating and then wake up a few hours later. And that became my method for overcoming that morning anxiety and that morning mind. And as I was telling, one of the members at the center this, it was clear that they really should be doing this. And then she said, gosh, I think a lot of people might need to hear this, so she recommended make a video, so I thought I would do that. I can't stress enough how helpful it is. It really can be the difference between getting some consistently deep meditation in and just waking up and struggling for half an hour and then going to work. It can really make the difference. But it just requires letting go of your attachment to sleep. Most people, when I say just get up at 3 and meditate and then go back to sleep, it just sounds to them terrible. There's a real resistance, and that's where I think Christian spirituality can help, because the monks and nuns are always telling us to give up our addiction for sleep. And, they don't have kids and jobs that require results. So I think they can permanently be deprived of sleep and have it serve them quite well, because it's really, if you're deprived of sleep and you meditate at 9 a.m., you can get in. And if you're still deprived of sleep and you meditate at 2 p.m., you can get in easy. And then if you go in again at 4, you can get in easy again, because your body needs the rest. And so it embraces it more than it fights it. I don't know if that's a good thing for all of us. It's probably better to get good sleep. I think studies really show it's good to get sleep. But you can get the same effect by just getting up halfway through your sleep cycle, praying and meditating, and then finishing your sleep cycle after. And the people who do it all say that they get the best sleep they've ever had on the other side of that morning meditation. So you're not going to lose anything. You're actually going to gain both. You're going to get a good prayer in, a good meditation period in, and you're going to get some better sleep. And so I think that's probably something a lot of people should embrace and try and maybe work into their prayer life. I'm not saying this to somebody who's getting up just before work and meditating and getting a great meditation. But for the people who say, I'm not very deep, I'm just thinking about my day, you can fix that today if you embrace this approach. It should make it better for every single person who is struggling at all with getting deep in meditation. And, you really do want to get deeper in meditation. It's important that, it's like the deeper you get in your relationship with God, the more God heals, the deeper your meditation will be. But the converse is also true. The deeper your meditation is, the more will get healed. And so they kind of work together. And so really, you should be fighting for a quality meditation period. And, after having that conversation with a person who comes to the center regularly, a friend of mine came in for a session. And he's not a member of the center. He does meditate every day, twice a day, seriously. And he is my meditation student, but he's kind of a friend, and he doesn't come to the center. And he said, this is the weirdest thing. He said, you're probably going to think my schedule is strange, but here's what I've been doing the last 6 months or so. He said, I go to bed and I wake up around 3 or 4 naturally. He said, I'm just awake. And at first he said, I was trying to get back to sleep and struggling with that. And he said, now what I do, he said, I get up. He said, I have a cup of coffee. And I don't recommend coffee necessarily, but this is his path, right? He said, I get up, I have a cup of coffee, I get my spiritual books out, I read, and then I meditate, he said, for an hour or 2. And then I go back to sleep, and he said, I have the best sleep I ever get. And then, he said, I get up in the morning at 6 or 7, and I meditate for 20 minutes, and I go to work. And he said, he said, I know you're going to think this is weird, but it's been so helpful. And what I took it as is, that's confirmation of the conversation I had earlier, and it's confirmation that I hope that I probably haven't made this clear enough to people, and should have. But I will also say that I remember telling a number of people about it, and there's always been real resistance to getting up that early in the morning. And I think that's an addiction. I think that's an excuse. I think that's an attachment to sleep in an unhealthy way. And I think it's something to put aside. If you're not getting really good quality meditations in the morning, you should try this. And not for a week, but for a few months. Get into a cycle of it. And the only thing I would say is if I meditate at 3 a.m., let's say I meditate for 2 hours and then I sleep till 7. So that's a 4-hour period right there. It is very helpful for me to, when I get up, have at least 15 or 20 minutes of a little bit of prayer, a little bit of semi-meditation to just re-plug into what I found, because now I've fallen asleep and it's like I'm waking up again, and I don't necessarily have that meditator's mind and that consciousness. It's gone deep inside, but it might not be right on the surface and available to me. And so sometimes a little bit of prayer, meditation, it doesn't have to necessarily be 20 minutes, but just a period of tuning in to sort of focus is still really helpful. But if you do this, I think most of you will find that your morning meditation problem is solved. It's just solved. You get up at 3 a.m. You don't have to be out of it. I'm just guessing, but you don't have to be out of bed till 7. Get up at 3. That's 4 hours. 4 hours away before you have to be concerned about work. 4 hours away before you have to be concerned about anything. There's nobody to call, no one to call you. There's nothing on the television. There's just nothing to distract you from your path. And so you'll feel it. You'll feel that buffer. You are free from the world. You can place your attention on God. You can have some quite profound experiences in there. And then go back to sleep when you're done and still wake up fully rested for your day. And I think that's better. I really think that is much better than waking up fully rested and then trying to go into an hour of deep meditation, which I think the body will sometimes resist that. I think the body will sometimes, feel energized enough that it doesn't want to sit and focus in that way. It doesn't want to rest in God. It's now time for activity. So this is using your natural cycles and using the natural tiredness you get if you don't get enough sleep to have your body help you find that rest rather than resist. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Other than just to say again, it's really important. I think people should try this if they're having any problems at all. And then the other thing I was going to add is, and this doesn't have to be normal, that you do this normal every day, but not enough, I'm not hearing this enough from people. I think our love for prayer should deepen over time. I think our love for prayer and our desire for prayer should deepen over time. Remember now, if you're going to reach union with God, you're going to come to a place where it's the only thing you care about. And everything else you only do because it's a requirement of your life, or it's a service to God. Kids, marriage, all that's a service to God. But the point being that you're growing to a place where you're just going to want to think about God all the time, and you're not going to have other desires at all. It's just, you're not going to want to do those other things very much. I mean, if it's a walk, it's because you can walk with God. It's not that you don't do anything else. But it does get more and more like, I will do this because I like to be with God when I'm doing this. And I'll do this because I like to be with God while I'm doing this. Or this supports my relationship with God, so I'll do this. Does that make sense? So you're supposed to be growing in this love for God, where you want to be in prayer longer than you are, where you don't want to stop, you don't want to put in your 20, 30-minute minimum and just go about your day. That's lackluster devotion. That's lackluster faith. That's a great start, but we want to deepen that. We want to come to a place where, barring, when there are no other responsibilities that are required of us, we might stay for 4 hours because it's what we want to do. And this thing I'm sharing about getting up very early, I do it on the weekends just the same as I do it on the weekdays. And the reason why is because it does also lend itself to some long meditation periods that are not filled with anxiety or difficulty, that are really quite enjoyable, and some mixes of meditation and sleep where you can. I'm not saying meditation should be like there's this goal to meditate for 4 hours. I think that's it's putting a technique before God. It's not like the goal is more hours. But then again, the goal is to be able to dwell with God for a long time and enjoy it. And I have found personally that this getting up really early and meditating and then falling asleep, and let's say now I'm really awake, but I've been half meditating, so I'm still in that meditation place. And I don't have to get up for work this time. I don't have to take my daughter to school. I don't have the responsibilities I normally have. I've noticed that you can extend that. You're in this naturally very restful, quiet place, and you're already in prayer. You don't yet have that fully awake mind that gets interested in the world. I found you can just ride that for long periods of time. And it, again, we don't want to make length of time the goal. That would be a misunderstanding of grace, I think. But then again, I'd like to spend that time with God. I like to spend 3 or 4 hours with God in a row. I like that. I enjoy it deeply. I find some quite powerful places in there while doing that. And it's not a goal to make happen, but it's certainly something you could allow to happen in this way. And really arising extremely early is just the natural way to make that happen. And you think about the monks and nuns They all get up at 3 a.m. and go to church. 20 minutes of church, 15. And then they go back to their cell and pray and meditate. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it? They're up, but focused on God long enough to be awake, but not worldly. Then they go back to their cells. I'm sure some of them go to sleep, but the ones I've known all go back and pray and meditate. And they probably ride that same thing until the next church period. And then they go to church and come back and do it again. And I think it's probably fair to say most of you should be trying that. Just you should be. And the resistance is just you don't want to get out of bed when it's warm and comfy. That's the only reason not to do it. And I don't think that's a good reason. That sounds like a fake reason. That sounds like an egoic reason. It sounds like a reason that has got to do with sensuality and seeking comfort rather than truth. And so I don't think there's a good reason not to employ this unless what's happening to you already is you're getting up and having really deep meditations, and then you still might want to, though, because you probably only have an hour in the morning before work. Why not have 3 hours? You're going to get some sleep in that 3 hours too, but why not get deeper meditation and a deeper experience with God in that way? And why not take care of the natural buffer of darkness and the hours before responsibilities hit, where there's just nothing you could do if you wanted to, really. There's just nothing your ego can suggest that it feels right to do. Why not take advantage of that so that your meditation is easier, so that you're struggling less with busy mind? And then the only other thing I would say, this is something my daughter's working with right now and something I've worked through over the years, is just finding that exact amount of tiredness that leads to a good meditation, but not so much tiredness that it leads into sleep too quickly. So my daughter, when she gets up at 5:30, meditates. So great, okay, good. She's been doing that for a long time. That's great. The trick, though, is that she's refining over time, is making sure that she's awake enough that it's quality meditation before she falls back asleep, and not just sitting down to meditate and falling asleep. And that's just the thing. For me, it's a restroom and brushing your teeth. It's enough. And it used to be a shower, but I don't seem to need to shower now. That seemed to be what it took for me to be awake enough for the meditation to work well. And that might be what it is for you. That might be great. A warm shower where you repeat a mantra or a prayer the whole time so that you're not daydreaming about work ahead or the day ahead. Just focused on God alone. And then you brush your teeth and then come back, sit down, and have a powerful, quality, lengthy period of time before you have to engage in your day. So it's just so easy to sink into that presence, and so easy to sink into God's warmth, and so easy to sink into God's healing. Okay, so I think that's good enough. I'll upload this video right now, and thanks everybody. I know I haven't been making videos. I'm going to be honest, I just don't feel much more to say right now. And so I haven't been doing it. But the last couple of weeks, a few ideas have dropped in. I'll make videos. I want to support the people that aren't coming, but who are watching the videos. I really do. And maybe you guys could email me with requests for videos, because I will make videos if you request certain topics. I would love to support the community I don't know. But I also want to say to you that aren't coming, why don't you drop in? Why don't you start coming? Why not have a community of people around you that are all doing the same things in a deep way and that support you in that, encourage you in that, inform you about the journey? Why not have a community to walk with and then still have that life you go into to bring God into that life? Why not come on into the center and sit with us in person and absorb that communal power and become a part of it rather than stay out on the outside? Okay. Thanks everybody. God bless. And send requests if you have videos you want to see made. Okay, thanks.